Some of the things that are the most important for us to do in teaching are things that can be put off. But if they're put off to our peril.
Welcome back to the Doc School Leader Podcast, where we're dedicated to the renewal and growth of school leaders. I'm your host, Kyler Martin. We hope to help you lead your school community with greater wisdom and courage. Transformative schools need effective leaders, and effectiveness requires patient training. Here we go. A new school year is just weeks away, and there's always a lot to accomplish to get all of the apparatus in motion again. Here at the Doc, we want to do what we can to support you in the difficult and invaluable work that you school leaders are doing. If you found our podcast helpful in the last school year, consider leaving us a rating, or better yet, tell another school leader about the show. And if you've just joined, welcome to the podcast. We will do our best to make these episodes worth your time. We hope to encourage you to step back from your daily grind, have a look around, and become just a bit better equipped and a bit more inspired to carry on in your labors. Preparation is vital to building solid momentum. Our next segment of 4 episodes will explore 2 areas that will play a huge role in the building or defeating of momentum at your school this year. These 2 areas are orienting your teaching team and investing in healthy school culture. What do your teachers need to understand and prepare in order to succeed? In both August episodes, Jonas Sauder will address that question. In September, Gerald Miller and Richie Lauer will help us orient and deepen our understanding of school culture. Many of you school leaders are in the process or will soon be onboarding new teachers. All of you are about to guide your team through a new school year. Perhaps your staff has experience, but maybe you have someone starting their first year of teaching. In any case, how do you see your teachers, especially your new ones? What expectations do you have for them? How do you go beyond just helping them to feel good for the first weeks and truly set them up for a successful year? Jonas Sauder has labored for decades in many levels of Christian education. I invite you to listen in as he addresses a group of new teachers and glean from his perspective as you lead your team through the opening days of this upcoming school year.
I remember my first year. I started teaching when I was 21. I started teaching with grades 7, 8, and 9, all the subjects, 24 students in 3 grades. And you jump in and do what you can. Every teacher, you change a little each year, and you teach out of who you are. First-year teachers have something going for them that oftentimes teachers don't have in their later experience, and that is, it's often an adventure. You can teach out of a certain stance. For example, if you have a lot of experience and have done a lot of reading, you have many things to offer to your students. If you're one of these people who likes to do many hands-on things and you like activity, you'll probably be planning activities for your students. If you are new at the task, the whole thing is going to be kind of an adventure. We're finding our way through here. And that is an interesting way to take a walk. If you ever went on a walk in which you didn't know what was around the next corner, you weren't really sure what you're going to find, that itself is part of the interest. And so you can approach this first year as though it's an adventure and call the children to the adventure with you. So I want to address two topics in this session. One is the more general, what is expected of you as a teacher? And then we'll look in the second part as to some practical things to do in preparing for the first days of school. So first of all, the big picture, and I might say that oftentimes the most important things for the teacher are not the most pressing things. The most pressing things, such as getting something hanging on the wall, or having some papers run off, or having books to pass out on the first day, those things must be done. And so we do them. But in the long run, if it goes till the second day or the third day or the fifth day until you get something on the bulletin board, that would look strange. That would look strange. And students might remember it as the year that there was nothing on the bulletin board the first day of school. However, in the long run, it wouldn't have as much impact on the student attitudes or on the overall program of the year as it would if you really didn't know what you're trying to accomplish. If you didn't understand the parents' expectations. Some of the things that are the most important for us to do in teaching are things that can be put off. But if they're put off to our peril. Some of the things that are most pressing are likely to get attention, but actually in the long run, they aren't as serious if they don't get accomplished as the important. And I think you'll see that as we walk through here. First of all, the expectations. What is expected of you? Your students are going to wonder the same thing when they come in the room. What is expected of me? It's difficult to do your task if you don't really know what's expected. And we want our students to know what we expect. They ought to know if we are pleased with them. And we ourselves need to know what's expected of us. The first item here, we might say, well, it goes without saying that the Lord has expectations. But let me remind you that this is really where it begins, this is where it continues, and this is where it ends. That is, we need to walk with the Lord. If we have difficulties in our classroom relating with our students, any type of difficulty, whether it's students who don't respect us, whether it's not having ideas about how to teach a lesson or prepare something, whether it's difficulty with parents, whatever, the first thing to check is our walk with the Lord. Because if that is not healthy, there will be symptoms show up somewhere. And the symptoms don't necessarily make any direct connection to what the problem is. That is, there can be frustration over here somewhere and dealing with an academic difficulty, and we might think we need to work a little harder, read another book, get ideas from other people, and those, they have their place. But it may well be that our quiet time, that our devotional time is suffering. And it's amazing how if that is in place, you cannot afford, if there's any task that you can't afford to miss your quiet time and your prayer time, it's teaching. Teaching is intensely personal. It's intensely focused. Each day, it's like living in a fishbowl where you can be seen from all sides, you can be watched from all sides, and you will soon experience what Jesus said when he said, I felt virtue go out of me. Students draw from you, and you give. I grew up on a farm and enjoyed the work on the farm, but when I got into teaching, I found myself more fully engaged as a person. I've used the illustration already that with a tractor, there are various ways you can tap power from a tractor. You can hit something to it to pull. You hook something up to the power takeoff to drive. With the power takeoff shaft, you can hook something up to the hydraulics. You can even plug something into the electrical system. And when I started teaching, I felt that there was something plugged into every aspect of my life. I was giving in every way that I could, physically, emotionally, spiritually, which is a challenge, but it's also a blessing to be able to be fully engaged. The Lord is looking for your fellowship. The Lord is looking for you to trust in him. He's looking for faithfulness, for you to be faithful. And it's always as unto the Lord that we serve. And he will be faithful. He will be faithful. The book of James tells us that if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, and he will give liberally. He will give you the wisdom, and you will have need of wisdom as you teach. He's looking for you to be a good steward and to serve. He is first and foremost looking for fellowship. There are many of us, we can easily replace service for fellowship with God. That is, certainly, if I'm working hard for the Lord, he will fill in and give me strength and energy and insight. But he does give us strength and energy and insight, but first and foremost and always, he's looking for us to walk with him. This is one of the things I mentioned, one of the things that is important. You can skip your devotional time and cut out bulletin board letters instead. And then you have something to put up on the bulletin board. And you might not notice it the second day. But you do that a time or two, and the important things will cause problems in numerous areas of the school program. So, don't forget to walk with the Lord. The church and the community who hire you. Now, schools are set up in different ways. In some cases, the parent runs schools, some cases by church. But at any rate, the group of the community, churches, whatever, that your children come from, it's a tremendous thing for parents to send their children off to school and sit under a teacher's influence day in and day out for 180 days. There is a tremendous amount of trust being put in teachers. The community is looking for a teacher who will understand who they are, respect them, and somehow build and support. They certainly do not want children to go to school and develop apathy, or worse yet, cynicism about the community. They're looking for children who will appreciate, support the community, who will think and be willing to be actively involved. And you are working with the future members of the future church. Sometimes as you teach, it's mind-boggling to recognize that this little first grader that you're helping, this little person who has the bruised knee, there's the next generation's bishop. There's future teachers. There are the future missionaries and future farmers and future builders. But they are there right now. And someday they will be telling stories about you. You will be talked about. Now, let me hasten to say that as you think back, first grade teachers are usually remembered. You think back to your own years of experience, and you may be remembered specifically. You might not be. Don't let that worry you. Don't try to teach in such a way that you're going to be one of these outstanding people that people will use as illustrations in their stories down the road. Many of the things that make us strong, the experiences that make us strong, life is mostly very routine. We don't remember every meal we ate. In fact, some of the most nutritious meals we eat, we don't remember. We might remember the ones that had the most spice, the most sweets, but not necessarily the most nutritious. And so what I'm saying is that as we teach well, teach faithfully, our children will grow, and they may or may not think of particular things to happen in your room, but they should grow healthily, and we have the blessing of having to work with them. The school board, most communities, churches, then, they have established some kind of a board, whether it's the pastors, whether it's parents, but this board represents the parents or the church, and it's a smaller group, and usually they are a cross section and can give you a good idea of what kinds of things the parents are looking for. They're expecting you, they want to trust you. They're expecting you to have integrity. The teacher's life outside the classroom is significant, very significant also. Children may catch a glimpse. I remember in my early days, I went to public school, and it seemed like teachers were not real people. That is, they functioned in a classroom, but you couldn't quite imagine being outside of school. I didn't really meet them outside of school. But if you meet your teacher in the store, if the child meets you in the store, elsewhere, they notice. They notice. And they notice how you walk, how you look, how you act, how you dress, how you react, interact, and they don't consciously think about this, especially the younger children, but they do notice whether, is there integrity here? Is there one set of behaviors in the classroom? I'm not saying that you should act like a teacher and try to teach them when you meet them, but I think you know what I'm saying. As a person, are they surprised outside of the classroom because you're different in? And so the school board is looking for a person who has integrity, and they are looking for somebody who can do the task, somebody who can deliver the goods, somebody who's able, somebody who's interested, willing to try, willing to work at it. And they're looking for somebody who is honest with them. There will be times that you have questions, that you have problems, and of course schools are set up differently. Somehow the questions need to go to the principal or through the principal to the board. But the point I want to make here is that you don't want to be saying one thing or maybe complaining or questioning one thing among teachers or wondering one thing and then if the school board asks you to come visit a meeting and they ask how are things, you say, oh, well, they're just fine, things are going well. But then when you're out of the meeting, you say, wow, really, they ought to this or that. They want you to be honest with them up front and let them know. Honest communication. And you need to try to understand it. If you're new, find out what is the vision of the school, what are their expectations, and then fit that. You don't want to be having your own agenda. You say, well, I really think these people ought to have more of this or more of that. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt, because sometimes like the old story of the woman who went to the pastor and said, I would like to have more patience. And so he said, all right, I will pray with you. And he prayed with her that the Lord would send her tribulation. And she said, oh, no, I don't want tribulation. And he said, well, the scripture says tribulation works patience. Now, there are parents sometimes who would like their children maybe to think more or to be able to appreciate good reading, whatever, and they might have those goals in mind, but not necessarily know how to reach those goals. And so as a teacher, you might say, wow, these people really want their children to think or have an interest in reading. So the ways you go about it might surprise them, but your goal is still the same as their goal. Now that's different from if parents have one goal in mind for their children and you have a different one. So understand and appreciate them. Parents themselves are extremely sensitive. These children are their own flesh and their blood. And when they send their children off to school, they recognize that you have a window into their homes, into their hearts. It's amazing what insights you get into homes as children come in your room. From the comments the children make, the questions they ask, especially the younger children. Daddy always says this, Mommy says that, we do this, we do that. And you think to yourself, oh, I see. And you get insight. And so the parents are aware of this more or less, that their lives are laid open before you. And so they're sensitive to that when They also feel responsible for their children. If their children had difficulty learning, they're going to feel responsible, maybe even a sense of guilt. When you have parent-teacher conferences, new teachers often feel, well, often all teachers feel a certain trepidation, because here we are having a conference, we're talking about how Johnny learned or what Johnny didn't learn, and of course I'm supposed to be teaching Johnny, he should be achieving success, and so we feel a bit responsible here, am I delivering the goods? The parents, on the other hand, feel trepidation, often more trepidation. What am I going to hear? What am I going to hear? What behavior is this child exhibiting at school? And being sensitive to each other's concerns, parents often have questions. Oftentimes when you discuss a problem a child has in a conference, maybe the child has problems staying on task or daydreaming or talking back or whatever, parents are very likely to say, yeah, we experience the same thing at home. What do you suggest we do about it? And you'll find them looking to you for advice, for suggestions, for ideas. It is a time you can talk together about this. You can pray together, because none of us really has all the answers. It's very helpful to look at this as a cooperative work. What are some things your children might wonder about you? Well, is this new teacher, is she or he going to be moody? Is she going to read us some stories? Is it going to be safe to make a mistake? Safe to ask a question? They're going to look for unconditional acceptance, meaning simply that they do not need to perform in a certain way before you accept them. When they walk in the door, the very fact that this is your child comes from the hand of God. I love you for who you are, the way you are. You're not going to have to sit straight, be quiet, raise your hand or whatever before I love you and accept you. Now, I do want you to do these things, but unconditional acceptance, appreciation, security, children wonder, and this is true of all grade levels, particularly the elementary school. They want, is this a safe place? Is it going to be safe if I'm at the chalkboard doing a practice problem and make a mistake? The whole world, as far as they're concerned, can see me. And even though the teacher might be supportive, what about the other children who see it? Are they going to be allowed to laugh at me behind their hands? So they are wondering, is this a safe place? Is this a pleasant, an inviting place? And as we heard this morning, it's your responsibility to create that atmosphere. They're going to wonder, do you see me as an individual? As an individual. Do you notice me? Do you care about me? And children find out whether you are just one of the crowd or whether you understand and appreciate the individuals. And of course, ability to teach, they might not say this, but children do like to learn. One of the pitfalls you want to avoid as you begin is don't have an overemphasis on the children liking me or appreciating me, but get on with the task of teaching. On the first day of school, be sure you get something taught. Jump right into something. Now, obviously there are things to lay out as you begin school. There are some procedures and so on, but some of those can be put off for the second day or the third day, or wait until lunchtime or recess time to talk about recess. Don't give a big long list of everything we're going to do before you start in on the first morning. Space them out. And children do like to learn. That's what they're at school for, and they will appreciate if they in fact learn something. And so focus on teaching lessons and teaching them well and being committed. I'll lighten a bit, make a few comments at the bottom here. Parents experience limitations on their time, limitations on their abilities. And so they often feel frustrated, and they really are looking to you as a teacher. Parents really are counting on you. Implicitly, they may not ever say it, but they're expecting you to teach their children to read, to teach them to be able to think, to be interested in learning, to understand math. And they're going to look forward to that and expect that. Something else to keep in mind, and now don't go on a witch hunt here looking for problems, but the comment that children often bring problems with them to school. The Holy Spirit is our teacher. And as we pray daily, as we pray for our children, with our children, it's important to be sensitive that this child might have some problem that is not really an academic problem. It's maybe not a problem in school, getting along with other children, but there's something maybe that bothers the child, something from the background at home. We may or may not have any clue what it is, and maybe eventually we might find something out. But there are often problems, whether it's death in the family, whether it's family troubles, the dog died, somebody married and moved out of the home, or maybe it's an adopted child with some difficulties, they're a foster child, or they have a foster brother. There's just a host of kinds of things in the community or the family that can you would say is baggage for the child that he brings to school, and can really affect the child's performance. This child might sit there spaced out, looking like he's daydreaming. And really and of course, when children don't perform, we often feel guilty, we feel responsible. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? This child is not performing, the child's not teaching well or learning. Maybe it's nothing, maybe there's nothing. We don't have every answer for every child's difficulty. And so there are some difficult things we need to just work with and do the best we can. Do not seek fulfillment in students' behavior, in their learning, or the response to you, but seek your fulfillment in the Lord. It is wonderful to have children who learn. It's a wonderful experience to see them learn in your classroom. It's a wonderful experience to have them respond to you well and to behave well. But we need to teach well and teach faithfully. And if there are problems, we can't let that get us down. And if they do well, we can't let that alone elevate us or get us up. It's nice. It's kind of like the icing on the cake. It's a blessing. It's a bonus if things go well. But we are, as the scriptures say, we are unprofitable servants at best. And we receive our blessing from the Lord. The Lord blesses us. The Lord gives us grace daily through thick times and thin, good times and bad, first years and second, third years and fourth. And we want to look to the Lord for grace, for blessing. Consider David. David encouraged himself in the Lord. He had great difficulties. He was anointed king and really couldn't exercise his work as king for years. But during this time, he wrote the Psalms, and he encouraged himself in the Lord. So in the difficult times, in the frustrating times, in the busy times, especially as we start out, we get our confirmation, our blessing from the Lord, and don't depend on the performance of the class to either get you down or to bless you.